Okay, welcome along. Great to see lots of you still here and some of you joining us from the other room. I'm Rich. Some of you know me through Southeast Asia connections and different school programs over here. I'm currently head of sport at Bangkok Patna School, and I was previously head of aquatics here 3 years, and before that 3 years at Garden in the same role. I'm just going to share my screen with you. I do apologize if I sound a bit red and hot. My aircon in my office has died, so I'm currently sitting in 27-degree heat, which is not ideal, but we'll get there. I know there's certainly worse places to be in the world. Unfortunately, we are one of the ones that are back in lockdown, so that's a bit of a shame, but I know lots of you have been in there for a while as well. As you can probably tell, I'm certainly not a professional on computers, but I'm learning as I go along. And I've certainly got a few little skills that hopefully will help us out today. Marketing your swim program. This is something that Matt actually asked me to do specifically, and I don't necessarily believe I'm brilliant at it. I don't believe I'm necessarily perfect in any way, shape, or form, and I'm certainly learning more and more about it as I go through. And taking on a different role, slightly away from poolside this year, has meant that I've seen even more about how we can use marketing to really support our programs. And help them develop and also build a culture within the school where your parents, parental community, the community outside of swimming really value what you're doing. And that's something that makes a huge difference to your numbers within the program, I feel, and certainly makes a difference when you're starting a year and looking at who you've got and the ability to go to PE teachers and get kids out of PE lessons who you think actually they could do something, they could be really useful, or how you, as students are looking for new schools, potentially, the parents want to come and see you and ask questions and consider you a part of their child's future. And it's something that we're very, very lucky being at a big school with 2,300 children and as close to ideal facilities as possible. We're very lucky, but there are certainly strategies that have supported me over my time here. And my time in a very different school in Malaysia at Garden, where we only had a very oddly shaped 25-meter pool that needed a lot more work, and the ability to run meets there was a very different scenario. So hopefully you're going to get some tips today. Some of you will know everything in this, and hopefully we can get some conversation going later on. And hopefully there'll be bits that you go, okay, that might be helpful, and we'll just help move your own program forward. So what is central to your team brand? One of the things that I think is so important is everything you do needs to have something as a central figure to it. Ours is obviously over the years been tiger sharks. It was something that we had very much over at Garden, was a dragon, and it has to be central in everything you do because it becomes synonymous for the kids. And it's amazing. It's a very Americanized idea that we need an animal to be the central figure. But I also love Millfield School, which is one of the big sports schools in the UK. They don't go this way. They have their stripe on the rugby shirts and the colours specifically that are synonymous with their school, and kids become bought into that. And I really feel that that's a huge part of what you need to set up at the start. And maybe I think probably I only got my head around this at BPS in my second year, and probably similar over at Garden, and trying to create an understanding and a brand behind whatever your logo might be, so that the students and parents start to really feel a part of that. And we're very lucky to have a community that are really behind the Orange Army and behind what goes on within our team. And we're part of that is that they feel like their students are part of something bigger than just a swim team. And we're able to call on, I think last feeding frenzy, before unfortunately COVID kind of kicked it out for a year, we had 146 parents sign up to help run the meet, and that was a really, really positive thing for me. And over the 3 years of me doing it, that number increased dramatically throughout, and that came from parents as far down as our 7-year-olds who weren't even necessarily swimming. We had 5 parents who came along whose children were not even racing, and they were below the 9-year-old category that we start at, because they wanted to be involved and they wanted to see what their students were moving towards. And it was a really positive experience from that point of view. But that's something that I would highly recommend, and trying to get your program behind one key vision or one key logo from a branding perspective. How do you build your brand? Visibility is massive, and I'm very lucky. We have a really good marketing team here at Patna, and our website is always looking for new things to put on and trying to support us in promoting what goes on within our community and within the wider community. That the website is certainly something that we try and get onto our school website once a month, maybe once every 3 weeks, and put different things on there. I've done a little clip. We had the virtual CSAC a few months back, and we got a nice little article on it for that. Tim's been doing some great stuff with some pretty good elite swimmers and elite coaches from around the world, student talks, and he did a big promotion of that and some links into their the videos that he was creating for that, and that was really exciting. We also have a bit of a brand partner here called Ines, and for those who are in Thailand, they'll know Ines very well, and we work really closely with them to create and develop our own brand, and they've just done one of the best swimsuit launches I've ever seen from a non-professional program, and certainly away from arena and speedo. They did a fantastic job, and if you get a chance to see the Bangkok Patna Tiger Sharks Facebook group or Instagram group, you'll see some of the photos that were created in conjunction with Ines, and it was done by the school in terms of the photography, but they've really bought into that and created some really great bespoke suits for us, bespoke teamwear. And it's been a huge launch over the last sort of 6 months, and at the start of this school year in particular, that Tim took on a whole overhaul of everything from a kit perspective. But that was all in the public eye for our parents to see what we were aiming towards, and it's certainly helped them to buy in even further to what's going on. The last one I put there is, what are you aiming for? I think it links back to a lot of the 2 talks I've certainly been in so far. Apologies, it's just jumped. Every school is very different. I know that at Garden, I had a very different set of goals while I was there to the ones that I was given when I got to Bangkok Patna. I was told very clearly that my goal when I got here was, we want you to get the swimmers back into the school training with us as Tiger Sharks. And that was my goal. That was the key. And that was a big part of what I started doing and I was working towards. Whereas at Garden, it was creating a club from a very different perspective, where it didn't have necessarily the coaching people, the different coaches in place, and you've got to understand that. And I think when you first walk into an international school, certainly having come from a club environment, that took me a little bit of time, because it's a crazy different environment to what you get from a club back in the UK, and I'm sure around the world the same. But I think for those, I know there's some that are new to this and lots of faces that have been around a long time, so I'm not going to bore you with it, but taking that time to really work out what your 2, 3, 4 goals are each year is a massive part of what I try and do. And I know I sat with Cindy every single year, and we kind of came up with what do we want to achieve this year? What's the next step? And I think I put together a proposal for her 2 years ago, and I think she might be in the room, I don't know, but and it was Taylor talked about it, a similar thing, but a 5-year plan of what I wanted the Tiger Sharks to become. And it was a lot of detail every single year of the key things that we needed to happen in terms of summer works, like the big projects, in terms of equipment, in terms of coaching numbers, in terms of budgets. And that was because the school bought into that vision and they were willing to listen and take on board what was needed. And I know that's not the case everywhere, because if I'd have done that at Garden, they'd have laughed me out of the room and said, you're never going to get that money, you're never going to get a 50-meter pool, although apparently they're going to have that in a few years, and I do hope they do. But so I do know it's different, but it's about finding avenues to create opportunity, and getting in front of the right people and asking the right questions. I certainly, even at Garden, where finances were very different and support was very different, by speaking to the right people and gaining the right support and doing the right things behind the scenes, we managed to get a second expat coach into that program, which made a massive difference to what it could achieve at the time. And that took 6 meetings with the head teacher. And by the 6th one, he got so bored of hearing me asking him for more that he just gave me what I wanted, because he didn't want me in the office anymore. And it was that I was polite, and I would always recommend that side of it, but know what you want and try and get to it. And it might not happen straight away, but step by step, you can get close to it. Trends. This is a bit more social media, and this is where we really start to talk about stuff. So the trends right now from social media are, for your parents, the Facebook, email, and website are their key areas that they're engaged with. Students is Instagram and TikTok. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite on trend with TikTok. I struggle with the concept, and whenever I've opened it to share it or to see what's going on, it's mental, and it's a world that I'm not quite ready for yet. But Instagram, I'm getting the hang of, and then obviously the parent stuff is a little bit easier. So we're going to kind of cut between the two now and go from there. So we're going to start off with the parent stuff. So the key areas that you should be aiming for with your parents are information versus celebration, and trying to get a 50-50 link between the two. So whatever you're posting, is it informational? Is it celebrating something? And it doesn't have to be celebrating a win. It doesn't have to be celebrating every gold medal you receive at a competition. It can be celebrating that that 9-year-old managed to kick across the pool for the first time. It could be celebrating that this swimmer got Swimmer of the Month. It could be celebrating any different aspect of your program, but put celebration on there. Parents want to see it. You'd be amazed how many different parents will get involved if they're realizing that my 9-year-old, all of his friends have been featured on the website. I want my child to be on there. And that helps keep those children in the mix. And by getting them engaged through the celebration side, you can then get them informed with the key information stuff. Here you've got, I've just clipped one of the pieces that was on our Instagram and Facebook feeds recently, which is about the sports facility closing when we went into lockdown. And parents are then getting that information much faster. Most of them are on social media a significant amount more during the day than they are for their school emails or work-related emails. They want to see it on social media, and posting that information on there, if you get it right, is a very, very good way of getting your information out there as quickly as possible. Below that's a bit of an infographic of what time they're online. And this was stolen from my marketing department because they did a talk with us recently about this. And the parents are, on the whole, online between 7 and 9 a.m. and between 6 and 9 p.m. So if you're posting these things, be clever about when you're posting it. Chucking it on in the middle of the day at 12 o'clock, by the time they go back online, chances are it's halfway down their feed. So they're not seeing it. So being strategic with that is so essential if you want to get that information out and you want to get input and feedback from those parents. Here's the changeover. Oh, sorry, I added this one last minute. Apologies. This is a little bit more. One of the best things I think I've done within our programs is a weekly email. Now, it sounds really stupid, but it's something that I did religiously in both my time with Garden and at BPS. Every Monday morning, the parents got an email from me, without fail during the season. Through the holidays, it continued. And in those emails, I've always aimed for kind of 3 areas in the emails. One topic around swimming to teach the parents, because then there's not many of our parents in our community that actually know about swimming. They don't know what a catch position is. They don't know how to fly kick underwater. They don't know how to do a crossover turn. They think they do because they watch it, but they don't actually know what they're trying to get out of it and why they're beneficial. Why is it that when my child does a backflip and then they come up because they can't do a pull-out because they've got no air left, is it necessary for us to teach them a crossover to get better output from them? They don't understand that. So we try to put in a little kind of tips, sometimes a little video from YouTube to support them and help them learn along the same lines as their children. And often that was specific to some of the groups that they were in. So this week, our pups group, who are our kind of real first level of swimming competitively with us, this is what they're working on freestyle this week, and they're working on their high elbow recovery and finger point entry, and talking about how that works and what drills they'll be doing. So when parents are looking and when they're getting in the car on the way home, the parents are like, oh, I know about that. I can have that conversation now. And instead of saying, did you win, or what went wrong or what went right, they can talk about the specifics with a little bit of knowledge. And I know a little bit of knowledge can sometimes be a dangerous thing, but I do think educating parents is a massive part of what we do, particularly with the kind of parents we have in international schools. Team information, what happens? There's that information side. It's got to be in there. What events are on this week? What events are on this month? What have you signed up for? What competitions should your child have signed up for? Are you on the list for this event? If you're not, every week you're going to hear from me, and I'm going to keep reminding you. And finally, celebration. good things in the week. We talked about it on social media. It goes into this email. Parents want to hear success. They want to hear about what you're doing. And it's part of international school culture. It's part of Asian culture for us. And I'm sure around the world, it's the same idea. They're paying a lot of money to be at these schools, and they want to hear what's going on and what the positives are of them being there. Okay, on to students. Students are not interested in information versus celebration. They are interested in videos. Right now, videos are the future for what students want to look at online. If you post one picture or a load of words, they're not reading it. They've got the focus time of about 10 seconds if you're lucky. Most of the time, 5. So if you don't hook them with something, they're not reading or getting involved with what you're posting. I've got a bit more on the next slide for that. But again, when they're online, 3:30 to 6 p.m. and then 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. or straight after school and then later in the evening. So again, if you're posting these videos, that's when they're online. That's when they want to engage with it. If you're not or if they're not going to engage with it, then we're missing the trick. So it's about being really clever about when we're posting to ensure that we're getting that full engagement when we want it. These are just some tips for videos. What they're online, they're looking at 10 to 20 second video clips. They're fully reliant on pictures. Okay, they're not bothered about seeing people or seeing words in particular. The videos grab their attention, and within those videos, we've got to be clever about what information we give them. Small phrases on each part of the video is how to get your information out there. This is a fact that came again from our marketing team. By the end of this year, 76% of all content consumed on the internet will be via video. That's over 3/4 of content. Okay, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm not great at it. I've got a couple of apps that I've started kind of using more and more that help me. One that Canva is one. Canva's a great one for this. You can make some really brilliant little videos. And I got onto Quick, which is a video app that makes videos very quickly, and it's linked to your GoPro. That's how I've started working. I totally moved away from pictures and information going out and worked with the students on going to Instagram and going video, because that's what they want to see. And also with Instagram, use stories, because they engage with them much more than the scrolling down looking for content. The stories are at the top of their screen, they're highlighted, and they look at them. Okay, one of the big ones that, and I know Taylor's sitting here, so I loved seeing at the end of CSAC virtual last year, the stuff that they were posting was going onto that feed, and it was getting a lot of views because of that. The different medal winners and the people that have been chosen for the competition. The use of stories is clickbait. People are going onto it as a result. This is another one that I found really helpful. There are swim stars around the world now. They may not be as famous as Leo Messi and LeBron James, but they are famous in their own right, and our swimming communities pay attention. I was shocked at how many swimmers that I've known or seen or worked with in the past are following Caleb Dressel. I understand it, but I was shocked at quite the number when I was looking at the likes on one of his posts. There were so many swimmers from Southeast Asia on there, and they are genuinely interested in what these athletes are doing. And one of the best bits that they do, and I think there was a really famous one, Petey's on the screen as well, so I'm going to use him as an example. He did a video with one of the other lads that he trains with one of them swimming breaststroke on the surface and the other underneath swimming upside down. And that video went viral. And as a program, there's an opportunity there. Get your kids to have a go. That was a great video to try out, repost and share and get feedback. He was responding and sharing videos from all sorts of programs around the world who were then getting liked by other people because they're suddenly interested. So you're getting views, you're getting interest from other areas. There was a great one that we did a few years back at Garden where we had them, I think it was one of the backstrokes. I think Emily Seabom did it from Australia, and she was on like a mat on the side of the pool when it was practicing a backstroke start, and it was sliding on your back into the pool and trying to really focus on the core engagement and getting a really nice streamlined push off. And we did it, and we actually got a retweet and a response from her saying, "Oh, I love this. I'd love to visit your school." And the kids absolutely loved it because they're suddenly engaging with these famous swim stars, and they absolutely adored that opportunity to be involved with it. And lots of them have ended up following her in her kind of swimming journey ever since. The other bit is websites, and I'm very aware that websites are becoming a little bit more obsolete. And that's why I was a bit hesitant to put this in, but I love websites, because I think if they're used correctly, they can make a really big difference to selling what you're trying to sell, and really giving across the kind of program you are. And when I go to a team's website and it's empty or out of date by months and months on end, that really concerns me, because that means no one's bothered or interested in it. And I've used a phrase at the bottom, and a redundant website is like walking into a room with your trousers down, because if I'm a parent and I'm looking at your program and I'm moving to your country, as certainly in the transient nature of our communities, and your website isn't up to date, you're losing interest. And there are students, and I can assure you of this because I've met with them over the last year a lot, who are moving to different countries in Southeast Asia, around the world, to international schools, and they look at these things because the first part of their journey to moving is they want to see for their swimmer where to go and where the best programs are. So your website does make a difference to that. Those parents might not find your Facebook straight away, but if your website's there and it's up to date and it's showing off the good things you're doing and giving them a guide to what you're doing, it makes a big difference to them. Final one, again, a little bit of a sidetrack as well. Something I've probably tagged into more over the last 2 or 3 years is LinkedIn. As a community, it's a real shame actually. James is talking at the same time, and I met James through LinkedIn, and he was asking me out of the blue. I've never met him before, didn't know anything of him. He asked me a question on LinkedIn, and we ended up talking for on and off for over a year about jobs, and he was really looking to move into the international school scene, and we had hours and hours of dialogue about Malaysia, about Singapore, about Bangkok, and where he might want to go. And ever since, we've kind of stayed in contact. He ended up in Oman, and I've got another good friend over there at the British school. And those contacts through LinkedIn allowed him the opportunity and opened up a door that I had no idea where he would end up, but it ended up that he had someone he could go and talk to when he got there. He had some idea of the kind of students that were there, and it really helped create that community. And I know this is the whole point of what we're doing today with the ISA conference, but LinkedIn, there's also a community there, and it's something that something I certainly will be suggesting to Matt, is trying to transfer some of this information and this conference dialogue onto LinkedIn, so that we can create a much more centralized talking system, so that people can connect and you can see what each other are doing, and we can share the values and the work that's going on. And that links, I know, into some of the previous talks, but it really is essential that we're talking, because it's great if you're doing a program in X country, but no one else knows about it, because then when we come to competitions, you're not necessarily engaging with the ones that are most appropriate to your program. And certainly hearing the numbers at JIS in the last talk, it was great to hear what a massive program that is, and the way that they can then be integrated into different competitions that are at the right level for them. And certainly, as hopefully post-COVID we open up an opportunity to get the right competition for all of the different students that we have within our programs. Just from the LinkedIn perspective, more personal connections, useful for sharing links and good practice. Jobs for coaches. I've seen so many more jobs advertised on LinkedIn over the last 2 years from sports, especially at schools. It's surprised me how quickly it's kind of snowballing, and lots of jobs are posted on there. So it's worth keeping an eye on that if you're certainly looking to move on over the next sort of year or so. It's a key area for yourselves to keep moving your own personal development forward, would be how I would describe it. I'm not going to bore you for any longer, and I've heard certainly enough of my voice. We've taken up about half an hour there. I would love to hear from you guys kind of your thoughts. If there's anything that you'd like to discuss further, or if you just want to have a general chat, I'm quite open to that too. Thanks for listening, and if there's anything you want me to go over or talk about, I'm certainly open to that. But yeah, it's a bit of a chance for some open forum.
Rich, can I ask something, please?
Of course, hey, George.
You know, I'm talking. The question is about Instagram.
Yes.
Our school has a very strict policy. You worked in Malaysia, I guess Muslim country, and everything about showing our swimmers with a suit.
Yes.
So we're not allowed unless we have permission, and I don't really. So I just don't bother. Who has access to these Instagram apps? Who has access to the Instagram? Who sees it?
Absolutely, good question. We have very strict rules here, and certainly at Garden was the same. I'm very au fait with those rules, and also have been frustrated by them at different points. All of our Instagram pages that are sports related at Patna have a central moderator who is our head of marketing, Cheryl, and she goes on there once in a while and checks on them. We have guidelines at school though that we are meant to adhere to and do adhere to on the whole. And a lot of the time, one way we've got around it a little bit is we have some odd rules in there that are very specific, like boys are not allowed to show nipples. So if you look at some of our team photos, you'll see the boys stood like this, which I know is skirting the rules somewhat, but that's how we've allowed them to have some of the photos taken. Or a lot of the time, you'll see our boys having photos and girls in the water so that their suits are submerged, and then you still see their faces, and you can have them doing different things, but it covers off some of those issues. The other thing that we have is they're all private. So either whoever is the main person running that Instagram page, you don't allow people you don't know into that group. So we're quite strict with who is able to follow our Instagram page, particularly, certainly I'm not the moderator of Tiger Sharks anymore. Tim's taken that over now. But when I was in charge of it, I would reject 25% of the people that were trying to follow it. It's very much aimed at the students. So there were students from other schools following it, but they were students that I knew. And I knew if there was an issue, I could go to, because they're in our CSAP community, Taylor or Andy, if they're from Tanglin, and some of the other schools, to say, look, this is an issue, this is what's been said. I wouldn't have just allowed random people into that group. One of the things Tim has moved forward with, which I commend him for, is trying to get, we have I think the boys vice captain for the team has actually taken over the Instagram account with his support. Or Joe, I think Joe may have taken this bit on, but and Prin has done a great job of continually putting content on there, but it's still being moderated by one of the staff members just to ensure safety as much as we can. But we do have the same issues with the girls' suits. There's a level that is a little bit too revealing, and certainly when we have team photos, the majority of the time you'll see us in the orange shirts because that's the safest way of getting photos.
Great answer. Thank you, because I'm really curious about that. And then the other question is, sorry if I'm taking too much time, but sending the emails, which I do weekly as well. I don't want to give out information to parents. I think they're going to get, and you did mention that they're going to, what am I trying to say? Like, oh, you didn't get, then they'll tell the kid, oh, your elbows weren't high enough. Then they'll start coaching them or even telling us how to coach. Do you ever get that?
On a smaller basis, yes. But I've had those conversations with the parents that really want to be in that position. I try and have that conversation face to face with them. And you can spot it on poolside because you'll see the students walking off poolside and the parents who are engaging and doing, oh, you didn't have your elbow up,
exactly.
Or oh, your head's moving, You can see who those parents are. And what I try and do is just sidle up alongside them. That's really interesting. What about this? And add context to what they're saying. And the majority of the time, if I'm being totally honest, the minute that context has been applied to it, it's way above their head. And it stops it quite quickly because I'm not being funny. I take my knowledge about swimming as a profession, and I believe I've worked a lot to get to this point. Parents are not going to get to the level of understanding that I have, or you have, or anyone else in this room has, just by reading my emails on a Monday. They're going to get a real small dose of it. There's so much to every single stroke. There's so much to the turns. There's so much to the starts. There's so much to the race prep. There's so much to all of the things that go into it that they will. I think you gain credit and respect from sharing that knowledge with them, because it's most of the time more than even they're willing and able to comprehend because they're not going to do it on a professional level like we are.
Yeah. Can I just kind of reiterate that? I think that's, you're 100% right, Rich. I think it's about trust, and in some ways, if in these situations at these international schools, you know, most of the parents, they don't want their kids to be. They'll tell you, you know, oh, I don't want my kid to go to the Olympics, and my answer to that is always why? Why would you stop them? You know, what do you mean you don't want them to go? You're trying to tell me if they got the Olympic time, you're going to stop them going? Of course not. But what I think you're saying there, Rich, it's about trust. And if you give them more than they want, more sessions than they want, more, you know, just you give them absolutely everything, then they're going to trust you more, and they're going to be like, oh, hang on. Then you might have the conversation, oh, actually, we can't come today because it's his granddad's birthday on Saturday morning. That's the kind of conversation you get, rather than we need to be doing this or you need to be doing that, because they're already at that point where they trust you so much that they're actually like, oh man, like, how are we going to make sure that, you know, I had one the other week, one of our top swimmers, you know, or the top middle school swimmers, and she says, I'm going to a sleepover on Friday night. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'll see you tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. She come from the sleepover, and then she's gone back to the sleepover after. She said, oh, I need to go 5 minutes at the end of land training. I'm saying, why? She said, I've got to go back to the sleepover. And I was like, brilliant. There we go. You know, so it's like the whole other way around. And I think like that, it's, you know, we're not actually allowed to do an email every week. I kind of got stopped doing that because there was too much, and every teacher in UWC has the same idea. So like ended up they're getting about 60 emails on a Monday morning from everybody. So, but yeah, I think, like, you know, that's, I'm with you all the way there. I think it's good, and great question as well, George. Loving the questions, George. Got to throw them out there. Not many other people are up for it.
I have a question, if that's right.
Hey, Jake.
A bit more practical. Hi, Rich. Do you, I guess I'm trying to ask for like a recipe of like how you kind of split that up. So I guess social media for me can be quite overwhelming. Like if you're trying to post all the time and it's just quite, you're thinking about, you know, you've got to do this today, you know, it's one thing you got to do all the time, right? So do you kind of, how do you delegate that between your team? Like how do you have kind of Monday is, oh, we find something to celebrate, Tuesday we find something educational piece or whatever, or Wednesday's one for the kids, or do you kind of have a system, like a recipe that you kind of, this is, or you do this day, someone else in the team posts this on this day? Like,
I think that's a great question. From an organizational perspective, there's so many jobs going on in all of these schools, and the list and job list that goes into it is endless. I've got to be honest, and honestly, it's always been quite organic, that I'm quite passionate about the stuff that we're doing, and I've always wanted to share it. So what I did do is link a lot of our media options together. So what I would do when I was doing my Monday morning email was, right, this video goes straight online, right, this thing goes onto Facebook, this does that. And I would do a big hit for Monday and then time when it goes out. And then from there, throughout the week, most days, we're very lucky. And again, I understand that this isn't the same for everyone. We have a 50-meter pool where most of our squads are in. So we've got 120 to 160 per night, all across doing yard swimming in our 50-meter pool. And I could go and photo any of those squads at any point, because I'm at one end of the pool all the way down to our younger ones at the far end of the pool. So each day I would kind of take a couple of different shots, take a couple of different videos of the kids doing things, video the coach, try and find something different that was going on. And part of that also came, we did like planning books with our coaches, and we've got 9 part-timers that come in with us. And whenever I was looking through it, if there was something in those planning books on a Monday that I'd be like, that's a really good idea, I like that, that's different, I'd wait for them to be doing it and then I'd go and video it. So it was, I know I'm not answering your question particularly. I certainly think you've got a really good plan there. I would highly recommend planning it in. But I didn't do it like that. I know what Tim has taken it over. He has very much delegated social media, because he hates Instagram. So he's passed Instagram to Joe. Who's I think might be on the call as well. And Joe takes on the Facebook and Instagram stuff with the students. And Tim takes the email system in particular. And he shares lots of that with them and the team. But he certainly shares it between himself and Joe, which is probably a healthier way of doing it, because you're not. I certainly used to find myself at 10 p.m. at night posting or thinking about posting and setting stuff up for the following day on a regular basis. But I love your idea of spreading it across the week. I think that's a great idea. And I certainly think parents would appreciate that if there was a consistent message on different times in the week. And the bit that I said earlier about the timeline of when they're online, for the bits where you want parents engaging and putting it on at the right time is key.
Is that, so do you have, I'm like so out of it, even though I'm a youngster, but are there apps or whatever that you can kind of preemptively set stuff up? So if you wanted to kind of get social media done for the week, is there like a website or something that you can kind of, okay, this one, let's just do the post, but it's going to be released on Monday, whenever? Or
what the app that I would say right now is my absolute favorite is called Canva, and it's on the App Store. Have you found Canva already?
Yeah.
Canva's brilliant. And at the start of the week, build 5 things, have it there, and then you just post them when you need to. I don't necessarily think, I haven't found one, and I'd love if someone on the call right now has got one. I'd be delighted to hear about it if there's a timed one that releases it at the right time. But I'm sure there probably is. There'll be a social media guru somewhere here. But certainly that would be my way around it. Plan it in, get them made at the start of the week, and then share them as it comes along. So it's only a 10-second job on a Thursday night rather than a large job making those videos later on.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like, what's the way that you can make it like the easiest possible? So if you just do it on Monday, like you just have 1 hour where you're like Instagram on Monday, and then you don't have to worry about it the rest of the week, rather than being like, there's got to be an app out there somewhere for it.
Jacob, hi Jacob, I'm Cindy. I believe that if you set up your Instagram accounts with a business style settings, which is an option when you first open, you can do a lot of scheduling, and Facebook allows you to do the same. And it also has a function where when you post on one, it will automatically push to the other. So if you don't have time to post separately to Instagram and Facebook, for example, you can create content and it will automatically copy across. I can see Holly nodding her head, so she probably knows about it as well. It's not something we use extensively at our school because we have the resources for different people to all be contributing at the same time, but it definitely exists. Maybe Holly, you can.
Yeah, no, that's right, Cindy. I was just going to add that if you don't have a business account, what you could do is you could get all your posts ready, Jake, on, let's say, a Monday, but save them in your drafts, and then you have like that bucket ready to go. And say you have your Wednesday post ready, you just go into your drafts, it's there to go. And as Cindy said, it's quite good. You can literally just select share to Instagram and Facebook, and then there's those 2 platforms done in just 1 post. It's quite easy that way.
All right, nice. I'll figure it out, I think.
Jake, there are apps out there that do what you're saying. I was on a course called Wired Creators, which sort of like provided a whole bunch, so you can find that. And then going back to Rich's and George's sort of explanation of what to post on social media, I had a discussion with Suzanne Murray, who used to be the safeguarding coordinator for Cognita Asia, and now she has her own company in the UK. If you look at the GDPR guidance on permissions, it's a good guidance, and it's the strongest in the world. Different countries expect consent to be obtained from parents or the child, so just make sure that usually your school marketing team will do this to get permission from the families.
Okay, cool, thanks. But I think it's a cool way, it's a really potentially simple way to add some value to a program. You know, if it only takes like an hour a week and you can just bust out a week's worth of stuff, and you know, parents are going to see that and it's going to be like, oh, like cool, especially now when they can't really see what's going on, you know, just keeping them in the loop with some videos or whatever. You know.
Let's get making some more Canva. You love Canva. We made so many of them. We went through a bit of a purple patch.
How do you spell the Canva? With a C or with a
Canva, George.
Got it.
Someone's posted it in the chat as well.
Perfect. I love. Okay.